Before we continue, I would like to point out that inside the industrial design folder is the Toaster KitchenAid folder. It has references for render targets. Like this is how I look at actual photos and then try to figure out how I should light the scene and what actually a real photo would look like. So I have a target for my render work and I don't have to just imagine everything. Here's also the folder with textures I will make a reference to. Here's, for example, the KitchenAid logo and the raw Fusion file. That file you can open in Fusion to start. So you download it and then you just go open, and then you will have the scan model and also my exported mesh model. Good. So before we continue, I will go to Fusion and pull up some of these renderings I did. And those I will now rebuild in Blender. And I will show you the process, how to set everything up. This is going to be the introduction exercise for rendering Fusion models in Blender. I use Blender because it's free, it's Mac and PC, and it is extremely powerful. I also own other commercial render engines. Very often I go back to Blender because it can do the same for $0, and because it's Mac and PC, it's very mobile, and free is always good for students too. Very good. So enough talk. Let's get working. All these objects I can select in Blender, and what I would like to do first is define the materials a little bit. So I click on this button here. On the right side again, this is where all the settings are. This checkerball, that's basically for materials. And if I click this object, it tells me here paint metal flake silver. If I click this, paint metal flake red. If I click this one, stainless steel satin. So you see all these objects have the individual materials added. The dial also has both materials added. So before I continue, I will close the surface one. Then I go to viewport, go to red, and set this one more to reddish color. So you can just click it and then the dial will pop up. If I select my metal part, I can do this a gray. And if I look at the bottom, there are my glides, maybe a black. So this color you see there right now is not the actual material color. It is just very helpful if you want to see where is what material later. We'll make this body obviously red, so I picked a red color. Very good. So this viewport display, this is just only for here. Think about it as an identification color. We all have names, they have colors. Okay, good. So let's go back then to surface. Scroll down a little bit and let's wait here for a moment. And let me explain what you see. So this is the base color. This is white. Currently this is red. And this might for a moment be confusing, but let's click this one. And now you see the color's gone. And this is white. When I click this, because this is just flat shaded with artificial object ID colors. This is now with an actual environment simulated. So this is white because this color is white. So we click this and drag it. Now we can give this an actual color. We also have specularity here that defines how reflective or how not reflective the surface is. If I zoom in a little bit, you can see right there the highlight getting stronger or weaker. And the roughness, that tells me if the surface is, well, rough, thus the reflection is blurry, or if the surface is smooth, thus the reflection is clear. If I click the metal one, because this is metallic, I want to give this a nice gray. The specular is primarily for plastic, and for metallic we set this metallic slider up. Roughness we can keep. Let's select the button. Can make the roughness down, specular up. Very good. These other objects, they all utilize the same materials, so we can select whatever object that has a material, and then everything else will get that update instantly. You see also here the dial now is green, now it's red. So super easy. Here our glides. They're kind of darkish and they're kind of rough because it's a rubber material. Very good. Okay, not too bad. We would like to add a camera. So this is now very important that you pay attention to the steps so you don't get lost. What we will do is we will add in a camera, and then we will position the camera correctly, and then we will also create a plane for the toaster to sit on and add some lights. To add an object, go to Add, and then Camera. There's the camera now. To move the camera, in case you don't see any tool, just click the Move icon, and then there we have move along Y, Z, and X. Super easy. When you press S for scale, we can also make this icon small. Very good. So this camera, I would like to see through. So now I could go to this one, and you see now there's the camera. But I don't really see my camera, my toaster yet. So if I press G for grab, there I could go to the camera, G, and then Z, move the camera up and down. If I press Z a second time, then I move the camera along its view axis. But it's a little bit complicated to adjust the camera. So I go, let's say I want to move the camera down and look, and then also at the toaster, because I have to rotate the camera. To make this a little bit easier, go Add, Empty. I will select Plane Axis. This axis right now is really big. So I could go with my mouse to the property for the empty and say 10 centimeters. Very good. And I move this one up. Now the sequence is very important. I click the camera, hold Shift, click the empty. So the camera should be orange, the empty should be bright orange. Then I go Object, Track, Track to Constraint, and very good. Now when I move the empty, you see the camera follows it. And when I move the camera, it always looks at that empty. So when I go back to the camera view, I can press G and Z and go, for example, down, press the empty, G and Z, or press X or press Y. This actually specifies the axis. Or I can also just use arrow, and then when I hold Shift, then I go in very slow steps. So I click on the red axis, hold Shift, and perfectly position it there. And maybe the camera and the empty I would like to be a little bit higher, so I select both via Shift and then move them up. Very good. Now looking through the camera is good, but I also want to see my environment. So what we will do is the following. See my mouse is again in this corner till I see this plus, then click and drag to the left. And maybe let's do this as an exercise. Now I click and drag to the right. You see I join them together again. Okay, let's do this down. Click and straight down. Click and up. Click and straight down. Click and up. And let's go to there and there. See, now we cut this interface into 1, 2, 3 objects. Here for the moment we will set this to shader editor and then drag this one to there. We'll come to this later. Here we can click on the camera and then press with the mouse in the left area T and N. Zoom in via the scroll bar. With Shift and middle mouse button I can move this area a little bit and then the scroll will get closer. Shift middle mouse button. And then here now I have the ability to select my camera. Just position it the way how I want. And frame my subject. See, it makes it a lot easier working in 2 views. Okay, very good. Now we would like to add a plane. We go to here or there, doesn't matter. Before we do this, Shift S and say cursor to world origin. Again, Shift S, cursor to world origin. Then add plane. Very good. I rotate my view and I can see the plane is cutting off the feet. So I move this one down till, yep, it's nearly not intersecting there anymore. Very good. Okay, let's have some of the magic start. With the middle mouse button, when I click and drag, you can see I can move these icons. And now I can click on this shaded icon and you see the colors changed a little bit. Go with your mouse to here where we have the world. And this is now our world color. We can click on this and make this brighter or make this darker. So that's kind of our environment color. Well, we need an actual real light. If I go back to Fusion and maybe take a look at this image, there you can see there's a light in kind of like 3/4 above me looking at there. So in Blender, we go Add, Light, Area, and I can move this one up. And this is super washed out because the light is very strong. This light is selected. In the properties, select this light icon. And then energy will set to 1, too strong, 0.1. And this is better. If I move this around, there you can see how we see the highlights on the object. And maybe there. And then let's go to shadow and turn this one on for the moment. You see that then casts a shadow on the ground. Okay, good. Because I look at the toaster from this angle down, and I go to here, so there's the light, sorry, the camera that looks at the toaster, and then kind of like in front of us is the light, so we see the reflection of the light on the toaster when we look from there. So that's kind of like also the way how this works. We want to add another light because this area is super dark. So let's go add light area. Here we do the same, 0.1. We can move this one up. And was it? Yeah, 0.1. And we would like to adjust the size, maybe 20 centimeters. So it's smaller. Bring this over, bring this to there. Maybe bring this up a little bit. Very good. Similar with the camera, looking at this empty, we also want to do the same for how we position and rotate the light. So go object, add empty. There's now this empty, this is way too big. So we change this to 20 centimeters. Whoops, 20 centimeters there. Once that empty selected, you can see all these icons here change. Then I select the light, hold shift, left mouse button, click on the empty, do the same tracking. Now I can select the empty, position it there, move the light around. Okay, so it's already a little bit easier. Maybe the light is a tick too strong, so 0.05. Yeah, also here, this should cast a shadow. This is nice. Now you see there are the shadows in these corners. That's good. Very nice. And we can click this plane. This plane is way too small. So we press S and then move the mouse, and you see the scales it up. And I make it as big as needed. So it goes beyond the camera frame. Very good. I can select this light. This actually could be darker. Yeah, maybe like this. Very good. Okay. I try to do very basic steps. So the lighting is very introductory, but I hope that actually it shows you already some of the way how we try to approach setting lights. You can see that in contrast to Fusion, yes, there is actually a lot more clicking going on. But on the other side, we have much more control, and we can really design every element of our rendering. And that's something you will really start noticing end of the semester when you compare the render abilities of these two programs. Blender is very good once you're done. Fusion is really great to do renderings while you're modeling. Okay, so this looks a little bit bland. Let's set up our rendering to look nicer. We go to this camera icon. Then we turn bloom on and off. You see this actually gives kind of like a, well, as the name says, a bloom effect. Intensity 0.2. Yep, maybe 0.1. So subjective taste, very good. Screen space reflections we can turn on. Then you see instantly here reflections popping up. This is actually the ground Also, the ground there now has a slight reflection. So this adds a little bit of realism to it. Very nice. And Shift middle mouse button, move this one down. Let's do a quick rendering. Before we do this, we want to go to output. This is now our format in terms of pixel size. So let's say 1500 by 1000 pixels. We have our format, PNG, RGBA. That's very good. That's what you want to have selected. And then we can go to render and say render image. And you get this. Wait a second. And there we are. Done. So it didn't take very fast. This render engine, which I'm going to introduce you first, is a real-time engine, which means it is not physically accurate, but it is very fast. And this is also very good for animations. And the nice thing is all the work we do right now, I can show you this as a sneak peek, is the prep work when we want to do a more realistic rendering. So this is, for example, now done with a realistic engine that is photorealistic in terms of the way how light is calculated. The steps I'm doing right now, don't memorize. We will go back to all this at one point. Anyway, yeah, very good. Go back here to this view and view slot 2, and then do a rendering. And there you see it's creating tile by tile of that image. And it's also pretty fast. But this is now using the CPU, and before it used the graphic card. So we're nearly done there. And if I now switch VRJ between the images, you see they both look pretty good. This has a tick more realism. This is also still good, but you can see it looks a little bit more graphical. Okay, to save an image, then we can go to Image, Save As, and don't crash. You want to frequently hit save also. I go to the desktop, RGBA, give this a name, hit save, and then the image was rendered. This view we can close, this we keep open, click save. Very good. So we have done the basic setup. Here I switch back to Eevee. Now let me show how we bring in the KitchenAid and also the dial graphic. Before we continue, we will go to Edit, Preferences. Then we go to Add-ons. Here we type in Image, Import, Export, Image as a plane. Yes, so we check this, close this, and now I go to File, Import, and hold on before I continue. This is maybe a good moment to talk about this. Wherever you will save the toaster file, do this inside a folder, and then also inside that folder have another folder called textures. And in this folder, you have all these images we will use as textures. Because then later you only need to copy this folder and all files go with it. So let's go back to here and we'll go File, Import. Now image as planes. I'm already inside my Toastro folder. Let's go to texture, and then there's KitchenAid. Do we have anything here? No, we're good. Click import image. Very nice. Hey, there's our logo. It's kind of large, so we press S to scale it down. Then I move this up, press S. I would like this to rotate along the Z axis. See here, I can rotate it along Z. I could also, under the step, press R for rotate. See, then it rotates freely. Press the Z key. So I only tap it, I don't hold it. Now I can rotate it around the Z axis, 90 degrees, minus one direction to the other direction. Enter. Very good. And as we move down, bring this to there, to there. This with S can be a little bit smaller. There and there. Well, that's not too bad. I won't go to the render view, but obviously this looks kind of crappy. First, the transparent background I would like to have, and the logo should really flow on the surface. So first, let's take care of the graphic. Make the background transparent, and then we smack it on the surface. With the KitchenAid image selected, go to the material. Then we go to settings and set this to alpha blend. And there we are. See, now it is transparent. So alpha is a different term for transparency. Alpha channel, that's like the common term. We turned this function on, and basically now this image is being blended into the rest by using the alpha channel. We want, however, this to be snug on that surface. So what we will do, introduction to a little bit of mesh modeling. See here where my mouse is, it says object mode and edit mode. In object mode, I can move these objects around. I can also scale them, rotate them. And in edit mode, I can manipulate the individual meshes. So again, this is now important you really listen to the steps. I will tell you all the commands and the keys I press, and then follow the visual on the recording. I select edit mode. I zoom in a little bit. I press Ctrl R. There you see is a yellow line. I move my mouse wheel till I have as many subdivisions so these elements look like squares. Then I press the left mouse button key, and then I press the right key. And that actually took this mesh and subdivided it into smaller rectangles. This is good. That's all I wanted. We go back to object mode. Go to modifiers. Think about modifiers. Well, they are going to modify the mesh. I will actually zoom to here so you later will see what's happening. Also, this zoom in and zoom out is terrible. Let's fix this. Clipping starts at 2 millimeters. Thank you. Closer. So, with this object still selected, add modifier, select subdivision surface, select simple, and set this to 4. Let's see if we can see the result. Yeah, see here, this modifier actually creates finer meshes. 3 is actually good. And the reason why I did this is now I give this a shrink wrap command and say with the eyedropper, I drop the red body. Zip, you see actually it snapped onto it. Let's set this to project, turn negative on. Also here, this is intersecting with the mesh because it's so snug on the surface. It's in the surface, not on the surface. And when we type in 1 millimeter here, that's maybe too much. So 0.1 millimeters. Nope, 0.5 millimeters. Okay, just keep it 1 millimeter for the moment. Fine, very good. So the shrink wrap modifier took every rectangle the subdivision modifier created and then projected it on that surface. Very good. See, not too complicated. Let's do something similar here to the dial. Because of that opening, we could create another surface and then put that on it. We can even do it a little bit easier. So import image as plane. There is my dial. So I zoom out, scale this one down, move this one forward, move this one up, scale this one down, bring it back in, move this down, and I go to this view so I can see where actually they are. Okay, this seems nearly centered. This has to go a little bit more up so that these dots are at the center of the dial, maybe there. Also here we do the same. We go to the material, we go to settings and say blend it. And now if I click here, shift middle mouse button, and rotate this one and then bring it closer, and I pay attention to when stuff starts intersecting there. I just rotate this one so it is super flush to the surface. Very good. Nice. So let's do another test render and see how this looks. And there we are. Not too bad. There we have our first rendering done in Blender, adding a camera, adding a ground plane, adding then also 2 lights, and then illuminating our scene a little bit. Maybe to finish this corner, maybe could get a little bit of light too. This area is nice. This top area is nice. So let's see what we can do to adjust this. Let's maybe work on the top area when we select this rectangle and bring it to here, bring it to there. Can we adjust this a little bit? I don't like that there's no light actually on these areas. Maybe it's just the way how it will simply look. Okay, let's keep it there. And I would like here to have a light. So I have this empty and this light. I can select both. It will be easier actually to go to this view. So I select these two and not always the plane. Then I can go to a top view, press Shift D. That makes a copy. Move this to there. Then I click somewhere else, click the light, press G, move the light. So, look at that. That's not too bad. We're getting a highlight on this element there. G and Z, moving this down. Does this look good? This may be too distracting. Maybe move this around this way and try to pay attention to how everything works out. Yep, this is nice. Let's go to there, slot 1. Okay, into slot 1 we do a new rendering, we replace it, and then we can compare. It's actually what these slots can be used for, to have multiple views and then switch between the variations. So the light is maybe a tick too strong. So I have this light selected, go to here, and then there I say half this amount, or maybe here. Very good. 0 is too strong. 0, 0, 1. Yeah. Pretty. That's it. Then let's click Save. And then we are done for this first exercise. I hope your brain didn't explode. Since I said that, fair warning. There's going to be a significant amount of stuff to learn, obviously. That's kind of like learning a new language. However, I try to do all these exercises to be very simple in its complexity, so you get enough repetition. And that repetition will at one point help you to memorize everything, and then everything will become second nature. Again, if you're getting anxious, don't get anxious. It's normal. The goal is not to get good at this in the next week. The goal is good to get at this once you graduate. So think long term.